Cole Harrington could practically taste the antiseptic in the hospital air as he hurried down the corridor. In one hand, he gripped a bouquet of white lilies, Adriana's favorite. Each step echoed off the polished linoleum, echoing the rapid tempo of his pulse. It was barely 6 in the morning, and the sun was just beginning to color the sky a hazy orange outside. He hadn't slept all night. His wife, Adriana, had given birth hours earlier. Their baby boy, his baby boy, rested somewhere beyond the swinging doors ahead. Cole's excitement mingled with a nervous tension he couldn't fully explain. Maybe it was fatigue. Or maybe it was the odd look he'd caught on Adriana's face during her final contractions, a fleeting shadow of guilt he had no time to question. He paused by a water dispenser, took a small sip. The water felt like ice sliding down his throat. "Room 605, he muttered, double-checking the note scrawled on his phone. That's where Adriana was recovering. When he reached the door, Cole found it ajar. He was about to call her name when a low voice on the other side halted him cold. "He doesn't suspect a thing, the baby's ours, and he'll still pay for everything." It was a man's voice, rich, dark, brimming with confidence. Cole froze, heart pounding. Ours. The word thundered in his mind as if the floor might drop from beneath him at any second. He steadied himself against the wall, trying not to knock over a metal tray stacked with surgical masks. A muffled response came from Adriana, followed by light laughter. Her laughter. Soft, intimate, it sent a chill through him. He pressed himself into the narrow gap beside the doorframe, lilies crushed awkwardly against his chest. He could see just enough through the opening to identify the speaker. Julian Blackwood, his supposed best friend, and the man whose startup Cole had been funding for the past year. Julian's figure was partially obscured by the curtain around Adriana's bed, but Cole recognized that distinct silhouette. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a crisp navy suit entirely out of place for a hospital at dawn. Why is he here, so early in the morning? Adriana's gentle laughter rose again, and Cole thought back to all the nights he had spent working late, making sure his logistics company could continue pumping money into important projects. He had done it out of loyalty to Julian, out of love for Adriana, who insisted it was a great opportunity to secure their financial future. His breathing quickened. He forced himself to stay still. Something about this conversation was so undeniably wrong that every instinct told him to storm inside. But a calmer part of him, the part that had orchestrated countless business negotiations, urged him to hold back, listen more, gather actual proof. He risked leaning closer. The door creaked, causing Julian to pause mid-sentence. Cole's stomach lurched, worried he'd been caught. But Julian continued speaking in a lower tone. "I'll come back later. For now, just rest. Don't worry about Cole. We'll handle it." Cole's vision blurred. The lilies slipped from his grasp, hitting the floor with a soft thud. His chest felt like it was on fire, his mind spinning with scenarios too devastating to process. A nurse in pink scrubs walked by, eyeing him curiously. Cole pressed a finger to his lips, silently begging her not to say a word. The nurse hesitated but moved on, giving him space. He had heard enough, maybe more than enough. Panic and disbelief battled inside him. He took one last glance through the crack in the door. Julian's suit sleeve appeared in the narrow view, his watch glinting under the fluorescent lights as he bent toward Adriana's bed. She reached for his hand, her expression soft and full of gratitude, the sort of look she used to give Cole when they first moved into their suburban home together. Before his heart could shatter further, Cole stumbled backward, nearly toppling the bouquet. He scooped the crumpled lilies off the floor, but their petals were bent, bruised. He couldn't stand the sight of them. Without a second thought, he tossed the flowers into a nearby waste bin. Then he spun around and bolted down the hallway, away from the hush of the maternity ward. He didn't stop until he reached the exit doors. The morning chill slapped him in the face, stinging the corners of his eyes. Cole inhaled sharply, trying to gather himself. A single question buzzed through his mind like a trapped hornet. Is my wife's child even mine? His phone vibrated. A text from his mother. "Heard the news! Congratulations, dear! Can't wait to meet my grandson!" The exclamation points felt cruel. Cole locked his phone, stuffing it into his coat pocket as his heart clenched. He glanced back at the hospital's stark facade. He couldn't bring himself to go back inside, not right now. Every fiber of his being wanted to confront them, yell at Adriana, punch Julian in his smug face, but a calmer voice, trembling yet determined, urged him to get the facts first. If he was about to have the fight of his life, he needed more than blind rage. With numb fingers, Cole tapped for a rideshare. As he stood on the curb, that single phrase repeated in his head, "The baby's ours, and he'll still pay for everything." A wave of nausea hit him, but he swallowed it down, eyes focused on the street. "Not for long," he muttered through clenched teeth. "Not if I can help it." When the car arrived, Cole slid into the back seat, ignoring the driver's polite greeting. He stared straight ahead, adrenaline surging through his system. Grief, betrayal, anger, each emotion threatened to break him. But as the driver pulled away from the hospital, a single defiant thought took shape in Cole's mind. He doesn't suspect a thing? Well, Julian, neither did you. But now I'm about to find out the truth. The echo of that hospital hallway haunted Cole's thoughts as he lay on his living room couch, hours after escaping the maternity ward. Unable to sleep, he kept replaying Julian's words until they morphed into a warped chant in his head. To distract himself, he recalled how different life had been just a month earlier. Back then, Adriana was in her final trimester, and he was still counting the days like an excited father-tobe. The nursery they'd painted together was a soothing pale green, dotted with decals of smiling giraffes and cartoon rockets. He remembered the warmth in Adriana's eyes the night she'd placed his hand on her belly to feel the baby's kick. He recalled how her gaze seemed distant at times, like she was carrying a secret she couldn't fully share. But then again, pregnancy could be stressful, and Adriana had always been more reserved than most. He'd chalked it up to nerves. He never suspected betrayal. They lived in an upscale neighborhood, thanks to the success of Cole's logistics company, Harrington Transports. A modest success, he would always say, but enough to buy a decent suburban house and finance extra comforts. One Sunday afternoon, Cole was adjusting a wooden crib in the nursery when Celeste Kingsley, Adriana's mother, suddenly appeared at the doorway, a designer purse perched on her forearm. Celeste's sharp features and icy voice could silence an entire cocktail party. She regarded Cole with a disapproving glance. "You need to be careful with that crib," she said coolly. "A single flaw could harm my grandchild." Cole exhaled quietly, standing upright. "I promise it's sturdy, Celeste. I've double-checked everything." Celeste sniffed, looking him over as if he were a less-than-ideal hire. "You know, Adriana deserves every luxury she can get. A top-notch crib, the best doctors, perhaps a bigger house." She let the words hang. "I hope you're prepared for those expenses." He recalled the sting of her tone. He had forced a polite smile even while a flicker of annoyance simmered in his gut. "I'm doing my best." She stepped closer, eyes narrowing. "Doing your best may not be enough. Don't disappoint my daughter." Before Cole could respond, Adriana entered, hand protectively over her belly. She offered them both a tense smile. "Mom, don't worry. We're fine. Cole's already put so much into the nursery." Celeste's eyes flicked between them. "If you say so." Then she abruptly changed the topic, rambling about a charity gala she planned to host, presumably funded by Cole's generosity. He remembered feeling uneasy but brushed it off. Adriana needed support, not arguments. A week later, Julian Blackwood came into the picture, or rather, reappeared. He'd been Cole's college buddy, a slick talker with big ideas. Over the years, Julian had pitched several ventures, but only the latest one, an AI-driven courier management system, seemed promising enough for Cole to invest. Julian arrived at their home with a confident grin that Sunday, carrying a tray of gourmet cupcakes. "For the mom, Toby," he said, placing them on the kitchen counter. Adriana lit up momentarily, thanking him for the thoughtful gesture. Cole remembered standing beside them, feeling oddly like a third wheel. Julian launched into his pitch for additional funding, a new software update that needed capital. Adriana chimed in, praising the potential returns. "Honey, we could secure the baby's future," she'd said, giving Cole's arm a gentle squeeze. Her eyes had that same distant flicker, but her voice was warm. Cole figured it was just hormones. He had no reason to suspect anything else. "If this pans out," Julian said, "we'll all be sitting on a gold mine." Cole had simply nodded, telling himself he could trust his longtime friend. Now, in the present, that memory was tainted. The knowledge of how Julian had apparently betrayed him twisted in Cole's stomach. He wondered how long they had been laughing behind his back. A beep on his phone snapped him from the recollection. It was a missed call from a friend, probably someone who'd heard about Adriana giving birth. Cole let it ring out. He wasn't in the right headspace to pretend everything was normal. He closed his eyes, battling fatigue. In just 4 short weeks, he'd gone from painting giraffes on nursery walls to hearing his wife call another man the father of their child. The sense of normalcy they'd shared was as fragile as spun glass, and evidently, it had just shattered. Turning onto his side, Cole gazed at the nursery door, slightly ajar in the dim hallway. The wooden crib, the pastel walls, they all looked like props in a cruel performance. One question repeated over and over. When did I lose Adriana's heart, and to whom exactly did I lose it? That same memory-laden month, Cole and Adriana found themselves summoned to a formal dinner at Celeste Kingsley's sprawling estate. She liked to call it an estate, though in truth it resembled a palatial mansion complete with rose gardens and a circular driveway. Cole tugged at the collar of his shirt as they stepped onto the polished marble floor of the foyer. A butler took their coats. Adriana, visibly pregnant then, placed a hand on her bump. "Mom invited Julian too. He said he'd be late," she whispered, her tone carefully neutral. Cole's gut twisted with a faint unease. He couldn't quite pinpoint why Julian's presence unsettled him back then. He blamed it on simple competition. The man was always so sure of himself, so smooth with words. They followed a hushed corridor lit by ornate wall sconces. Framed oil portraits of Celeste's ancestors gazed down at them with ghostly disapproval. Finally, they entered the main dining hall, where Celeste stood talking to a tall man in a gray suit. She turned the moment they arrived. "Adriana, darling," Celeste greeted, air-kissing her daughter's cheeks. Then her gaze landed on Cole. "Cole, I trust you've prepared for the baby's expenses? A premium hospital suite doesn't come cheap." Cole forced a polite nod. "Yes, ma'am. We've made arrangements." Before Celeste could probe further, dinner was announced. The group migrated to a large mahogany table under a crystal chandelier. Cole found himself seated across from Adriana, with Celeste at the head. The man in the gray suit introduced himself as Rowan Shepard, Celeste's financial consultant. From the slight smirk on Rowan's face, Cole guessed Rowan was also a loyal defender of Celeste's high standards. Steaming dishes were placed before them. Braised lamb, roasted vegetables, decadent sauces. Yet Cole found his appetite waning. He kept glancing at the empty seat designated for Julian. A clink of silverware drew everyone's attention as Celeste cleared her throat. "Now that we're all here?" She paused, noticing Julian's absence with a frown. "Well, mostly here, let's talk business." Cole tensed. He braced himself for Celeste's usual barbs. Adriana offered a slight smile. "Mom, can we not do business tonight? I'd love to just enjoy dinner." But Celeste pressed on. "Rowan's been analyzing new opportunities. My dear Adriana, you need the best for your upcoming child. There's talk of you investing further in certain tech ventures, and that's where Julian's name came up." Cole set his glass down with a click. "We've already invested quite a bit in Julian's startup." Celeste nodded, unfazed. "Indeed. Rowan can elaborate on how more funds could expedite growth. Considering the baby, it's wise to move now before the market shifts." Rowan leaned forward, his voice confident. "Right now, Mr. Harrington, Julian's project stands to double your returns if you inject additional capital. A second round of funding could—" Cole's annoyance flared. "We haven't even recouped from the first investment. I'd like to see results before pouring in more." Adriana shot him a tight look, her posture stiff. "Cole, it's just dinner. Let's hear them out?" Celeste's lips curved into a smug smile, as though she already knew how the conversation would end. "Let's be rational, dear. After all, you want your child to have every advantage, don't you?" His chest tightened. He thought of the mortgage, the hospital bills, his employees' salaries, and yes, the baby. Adriana caught his eye, her expression half pleading. She did that sometimes coax him with a silent trust that he would make everything right. At that moment, footsteps echoed down the corridor. Julian appeared, slightly out of breath. "Sorry I'm late, folks." Traffic was brutal. He shot Cole a bright grin, sliding into the empty seat. "Hope I haven't missed too much." Cole forced a polite smile. "We were just discussing the next round of funding for your startup." "Ah," Julian said, loosening his tie. "I'm humbled that you're even considering it." From the corner of his eye, Cole noticed how Adriana's face lit up for a moment. Or was that just relief that Julian had arrived? Whatever it was, it stirred a faint jealousy. He had tried to push such feelings aside, but now they snaked through his mind, refusing to be ignored. Dinner continued with forced pleasantries and subtle jabs about money. Celeste praised Julian's ambition while undermining Cole's caution. Rowan pitched more numbers that Cole found questionable. Adriana offered minimal input, as though she wanted to avoid confrontation. By the time dessert arrived, Cole felt cornered. In the end, he swallowed his frustrations and told them he'd take it under advisement. That seemed to satisfy Celeste and Rowan for the moment. Julian slapped Cole on the back, calling him a true partner, a friend, as they left the table. Cole couldn't shake the sense he was being played. He pushed the thought away for Adriana's sake, for the baby's sake, telling himself that doubt was just fear of fatherhood. Little did he know, the real threat lay in the trust he so generously gave to the people closest to him. In the present moment, hours after discovering that conversation at the hospital, Cole sat alone in the dimly lit living room of his own home, replaying every detail from that dinner and the weeks that followed. How many times had Julian casually dropped by, slipping in a private conversation with Adriana when Cole wasn't looking? He stared at the framed wedding photo on the mantel, Adriana in her flowing ivory gown, he in a tailored suit. 2 years of marriage, built on what he believed were love and mutual dreams, and now, it felt like those dreams had been dissected by a scalpel in a sterile hospital corridor. Picking up his phone, he scrolled through recent messages. Most were from well-wishers, friends, acquaintances, even distant relatives excited about the baby. He couldn't bear to reply. The baby might not even be his. That thought hammered his chest again. He found himself tapping the contact for Layla Fitzroy, his attorney. Layla was known in certain circles as a tough negotiator with a knack for unraveling financial scams. Cole had worked with her on a small contract dispute the previous year. She'd been thorough, discreet. When she picked up, her voice sounded half asleep. "Cole, it's nearly 5 in the morning. Is everything okay?" He swallowed the lump in his throat. "No," he said, voice trembling. I just found out something. Something huge about Adriana." There was a rustling sound, presumably as Layla sat up. "Go on." Cole's heart pounded in his ears. He pressed a palm against his temple. I think she's been having an affair with Julian Blackwood, my supposed best friend. She gave birth last night, and I overheard them." His voice cracked. He paused to catch his breath. "They said the baby's theirs, and that I'd still pay for everything." A brief silence. Then Layla's tone sharpened. "Did you record this conversation?" "No, it happened in the hospital. It was so sudden, I froze." "Calm down. We can't jump into accusations without tangible proof. Is there any evidence at all?" Cole thought of how Adriana had avoided his gaze, how Celeste seemed too eager to push for more funding, how Julian had always been around. But that was all circumstantial. He sighed heavily. "Not yet." "Then let's get some," Layla said matter-of-factly. "If you're right, we'll need financial records, communications, maybe even a paternity test. For now, keep your cool. Don't confront them without a plan." Cole closed his eyes, relief and desperation colliding inside him. I can't believe this is happening." Layla's voice softened. "I'm sorry, Cole. Truly. But if you want to protect yourself and your assets, you'll have to be strong. Do you understand?" His jaw clenched. "Yeah," he whispered. "I do." They ended the call. Cole let the phone slide from his hand onto the couch cushion. The world felt unreal, as though he were trapped in some twisted nightmare. He pictured Adriana in that hospital room with Julian, maybe lying awake with a satisfied smile on her face. Or maybe she felt guilty he didn't know anymore. He forced himself to think rationally, the way he did in business negotiations. Gather data, verify facts, then move. The first step? Confirm if he was indeed the father. Because if not, Cole stood, pacing across the hardwood floor. His reflection glinted in the dark window. He hardly recognized the man gazing back. The confident entrepreneur he'd been had vanished, replaced by a haunted figure with anger brimming beneath the surface. Suddenly, the nursery door caught his eye again. Even in the shadows, the cartoon giraffes seemed to mock him. He walked over and flipped the light switch. The room glowed softly under a warm lamp. A lone baby blanket was draped over the rocking chair Adriana had insisted they buy. It was embroidered with the words, "Daddy's Little Hero." In a flash of frustration, he almost tore it off the chair. But he stopped, swallowing the knot in his throat. What if the baby is still mine? That faint glimmer of hope shamed him for wanting to destroy everything in sight. He let the blanket be. Instead, he pulled the door shut, refusing to face the possibility that he'd decorated this space for another man's child. The clock on the wall chimed, startling him from his thoughts. 6:15 a.m. Soon, the sun would rise fully over the rooftops. Life would march on, neighbors heading to work, the local bakery opening, joggers passing by. Everything outwardly normal, even as his private world imploded. He exhaled shakily, grabbed his phone, and dialed for a taxi. This time he felt too unsteady to drive. He had to see Adriana again, no matter how much it hurt. He couldn't let Julian's presence deter him from at least visiting the newborn, to see if maybe his eyes or his tiny hands bore some sign of a Harrington heritage. As he waited by the door, Cole allowed a moment of stillness. He pictured himself confronting Adriana, demanding the truth. But Layla's warning echoed in his mind. Don't confront them without a plan. Maybe he could pretend ignorance, gather evidence discreetly. The thought made him sick, but if it shielded him from further betrayal, maybe it was worth it. Protect yourself, he muttered. Protect yourself and find out the truth. A horn beeped outside. Cole inhaled and walked out, bracing himself for whatever he might face back at the hospital. Part of him wanted to run, to vanish from this nightmare, but he needed answers. And come hell or high water, he was going to get them. Cole Harrington sat behind his office desk, eyes fixed on a digital clock that seemed to move in slow motion. Outside the windows, Los Angeles shimmered under a hazy morning sun. From the 12th floor, he could watch cars drift in lines like ants, but none of it fully registered in his mind. He was too preoccupied by the earthquake that had rocked his personal life just hours ago. His phone buzzed. He nearly ignored it, but a persistent beep meant it was an inter-office line. He tapped the speaker button. Yes? Rachel Yates, his newly hired administrative assistant, spoke hurriedly. Mr. Harrington, there's a call from your bank. Something urgent about a flagged transaction. Cole's pulse kicked up a notch. Ever since he'd overheard Julian's damning comment at the hospital, he'd been more paranoid about finances. All right, patch them through. A click, and then a soft, male voice filled the speaker. Good morning, Mr. Harrington. This is Sam Caldwell from Pacific Fidelity Bank. I'm reaching out regarding a rather large transfer initiated last night from your joint account. Cole straightened. Yes, go on. Sam's voice tightened. The amount was wired to an external account in the name of Adriana Harrington, but the routing details look unusual. We wanted to confirm you were aware of this. Cole frowned. I wasn't. How much was transferred? $50,000. He sucked in a breath, tension coiling inside his chest. Adriana had never transferred such a sum without discussing it first. It must be a mistake. Put a hold on that transaction. A quick shuffle of papers on Sam's end. Certainly, sir. We can freeze it temporarily if you suspect unauthorized use. We'll need you to come in and sign some documents, or we can send them digitally. Cole forced his voice to remain calm. Send them over. I'll handle it right away. The call ended, leaving behind a swirl of disbelief and anger. Julian had said he'd still pay for everything. Cole's mind replayed that line. So was Adriana shifting money under some pretext? For a moment, he recalled how Celeste Kingsley, his mother-in-law, constantly demanded top-off-the-line services. Could that be it? Or was Julian involved, funneling funds into his startup? He had no definite proof, But the puzzle pieces were slowly fitting together, fueling his suspicions. He pressed the intercom again. "Rachel, get me Layla Fitzroy on the line as soon as possible." Rachel hesitated. "Right away. Is everything okay, Mr. Harrington?" Cole almost appreciated her concern. He exhaled, forcing a tight smile she couldn't see. "I'll manage." Within minutes, Layla's crisp voice came through. "Cole, I see you're up early." He quickly briefed her on the bank situation. She responded with measured composure. "You can't accuse Adriana outright without more evidence, but if the money's being diverted, we need to know where and why." Cole spun his office chair, gazing at the cityscape. "Exactly. Is there any way to find out if Julian is receiving some of these funds?" A thoughtful pause. "Potentially. But we'd need to dig into corporate records, see if Adriana's transactions lead back to him. For now, keep calm. Don't tip them off. If we push too hard, they'll cover their tracks." A bitter chuckle escaped Cole's lips. "Fine. I'll lay low. But I want to block any more transfers." "Do that. And Cole, about the hospital situation, any updates?" His stomach clenched. He pictured Adriana lying in a hospital bed, Julian possibly by her side. "No. I left the hospital in a hurry. I'm heading back soon to see the baby." Layla's voice softened. "Be cautious. And remember, you can't let them suspect you're onto them. If Adriana believes you're clueless, you might learn more." Cole sighed. "Right. Thanks, Layla." After hanging up, he sat still, tension throbbing in his temples. He checked the time. If he hurried, he could sign the bank documents to freeze the transfer, then head to the hospital. Rising from his chair, he grabbed his blazer. Before stepping out, he caught a glimpse of his reflection in a glass cabinet. "I look exhausted," he thought, "but I can't show weakness now." With a stealing breath, he left the office, determined to uncover the truth behind the suspicious transactions and the betrayal that loomed over his once peaceful life. That afternoon, Cole parked in the hospital's multi-level garage, a stark concrete structure that echoed with the distant hum of engines. The elevator ride to the maternity ward felt endless. His mind buzzed with questions. Had Adriana taken that $50,000 for Julian, or for something else? He needed answers. As he stepped off the elevator onto the ward's pastel-colored floor, he was greeted by the soft beep of monitors and the muted chatter of nurses. Hallway lights glowed under tinted panels, offering a calm atmosphere that belied his churning emotions. He found room 605 without difficulty. The door was partially open, revealing Adriana propped up on pillows, gazing down at the infant in her arms. Despite everything, the sight squeezed Cole's heart. He'd dreamed of this moment for months, meeting his newborn, sharing that precious bond. Now he wasn't sure if that bond was even real. He cleared his throat, stepping inside. "Hey!" Adriana looked up sharply. Her expression flickered with something guilt, or maybe just annoyance, before settling into a guarded smile. "Cole, you came back." He forced a mild grin. "Of course I did." The baby made a soft cooing sound. Cole tried to swallow the lump of uncertainty in his throat. "How's he doing?" She glanced down, avoiding direct eye contact. "He's sleeping more. The nurses said he's healthy." An awkward silence followed. Cole approached the bed, noticing her phone near the nightstand. A random thought seized him. Was she texting Julian while I was gone? Before he could speak again, the room's door pushed open further and Celeste Kingsley swept in, wearing an elegant wrap dress far too fancy for a hospital visit. She offered a tight, dismissive nod in Cole's direction. "I see you finally showed up." Cole set his jaw. "I needed to handle urgent matters at my office. This isn't about me finally showing up, Celeste." Celeste's eyes glinted with superiority. "Adriana requires rest. Emotional stress is the last thing she needs." He noticed how her gaze flicked to the baby, then back to him, a hint of something smug in her expression. A memory surfaced Celeste at dinner, implying Adriana could do better. Now her attitude was even sharper. Cole took a steady breath. "I only want to spend time with my son and check on Adriana." Celeste's lips curved into a thin smile. "Your son? Let's just say you may need to brace yourself for certain realities." His gut tightened. "What's that supposed to mean?" Adriana spoke up suddenly, her tone tense. "Mom, Stop. Celeste rolled her eyes but complied, offering only a sniff of disapproval. She turned away, checking her phone as though bored. Cole, trying to maintain control, stepped closer to Adriana. He peered at the infant, tiny, delicate features, a tuft of dark hair. Does he look like me? Or does he resemble Julian? For a moment, he wanted to brush his hand over the baby's forehead, to feel that paternal spark. But Adriana shifted her grip, as if shielding the child. He hesitated, pain slicing through him. Celeste's voice cut through the silence again. If you really cared, Cole, you'd bring her better accommodations. Perhaps a private suite with a better view like Julian mentioned. He froze. Julian mentioned what? A fleeting look of panic crossed Adriana's face. She shot Celeste a warning glare but said nothing. Celeste shrugged, apparently unbothered. He's generously offered to upgrade Adriana's postnatal care, said he'd handle it himself if you wouldn't. Cole's anger flared. Julian paying for Adriana's hospital room? Where does he get the right? But he reminded himself of Layla's advice. Don't let them suspect you're on to them. So he forced a neutral expression. That's surprising. Adriana cleared her throat. Julian's just being a friend. That's all. That's all, Cole echoed, not believing a word of it. He glanced at his watch, feigning a polite smile. I have to speak with the doctor about the discharge process. Without waiting for a reply, he stepped out, heart pounding. He hadn't learned much, only that Celeste was pushing him away, and Adriana seemed strangely distant from him while allowing Julian's involvement. Out in the hallway, he caught sight of a nurse passing by and stopped her for a brief chat. Excuse me, he said quietly. I'm Cole Harrington. My wife, Adriana Harrington, is in room 605. Do you know if a Mr. Julian Blackwood has been frequently visiting her? The nurse hesitated, scanning the chart in her hand. He's come by a few times, yes, always with flowers or gifts. They seemed close. Cole bit back the surge of frustration. Thanks. That's all I needed. As she moved on, Cole thought of the flagged bank transfer. $50,000. He could only guess where it was truly going. And Celeste's not-so-subtle comment about your son echoed in his mind. Every sign pointed to one conclusion. This child might be Julian's. He clenched his fists, exhaling shakily. If there was any hope of reclaiming his life, or at least discovering the truth, he had to stay composed. Right now, he had no proof, just suspicions and half-hidden smirks from Celeste. But that would change. He vowed to himself it would change soon. It was nearly dusk by the time Cole left the maternity ward. The LA skyline blazed with oranges and purples, reflecting off towering glass buildings. He'd spent the afternoon pretending everything was fine, fielding Celeste's barbs, trying to coax more than monosyllables from Adriana. At least the baby was healthy, though that fact brought him mixed relief. He headed back toward the parking structure, footsteps echoing through the hospital's quiet corridors. His mind churned over the day's revelations, the suspicious bank transfer, Celeste's insinuations, Julian's over-involvement. He was so lost in thought he almost missed the sight just around the corner. A tall figure stood beside Adriana's car, her metallic blue sedan parked in a shadowy corner of the first level. That figure was none other than Julian Blackwood, dressed in a tailored suit, hair slicked back like he was closing a $1 million deal rather than visiting a new mother. Next to him, Adriana cradled a small bundle of items, perhaps postpartum supplies or personal belongings. Cole's heart hammered. He slipped behind a concrete column hidden from view. From that vantage point, he could see Julian and Adriana talking softly, their faces mere inches apart. She looked anxious. Julian's hand touched her shoulder gently, in a gesture that felt far too intimate for just a friend. Cole swallowed the anger that threatened to make him rush over and demand answers. Stay calm, he told himself. You need evidence, not a scene. He fumbled for his phone, trying to angle the camera to snap a photo. The shadows made it difficult. The camera couldn't focus well in the dim light, and his grip trembled with adrenaline. He managed a quick shot, but the resulting image was too blurry to be definitive. Still, it showed Julian leaning toward Adriana, his expression intense. Just then, Julian's head turned as though he sensed being watched. Cole ducked behind the column, heart pounding so loudly he swore it must echo. Moments later, he heard muffled voices, then the sound of a car door closing. Peeking out, he saw Adriana in the driver's seat, and Julian leaning through the open window saying something Cole couldn't catch. Then Julian straightened, gave a quick wave, and walked away with a self-satisfied smirk. The sedan's engine roared to life and pulled out of the spot, passing just feet from Cole's hiding place. Adriana never glanced in his direction. Cole pressed himself against the concrete, fury and heartbreak warring inside him. She's letting him see her off? Why is she trusting him more than her own husband? Finally, the hum of her car faded. Julian also disappeared up a flight of stairs, likely heading to a different car. Cole lingered a moment, breath ragged, phone clenched in his hand. He had come so close to confronting them, but once again, logic overrode rage. A confrontation with no evidence is useless. Stepping out of the shadows, Cole inhaled the stale parking garage air. He flipped through the photos on his phone. Most were too dark or blurred. One might hint at an embrace, but it wasn't undeniable. He cursed under his breath. A beep from his phone jolted him a text from Layla. "Any luck figuring out the financial angle? Let me know if you need me to subpoena anything." Cole typed back quickly. "No solid proof yet, but I have reason to believe he's with her right now. I'll keep digging." He pocketed the phone, footsteps echoing again as he moved toward his own car. The evening lights painted streaks on the garage floor, like some metaphor for his splintered life. He couldn't help thinking, they're acting freely, confident I'm blind, but I see more each day. Shaking with pent-up emotion, Cole unlocked his sedan and slid in behind the wheel. Before he drove off, he forced himself to breathe, remembering the nurse's words about how Julian frequently visited, remembering Celeste's catty remarks, remembering that brand-new baby whose paternity remained uncertain. The key turned in the ignition, headlights flicking on. "I won't lose everything," he whispered, voice trembling. "Not without a fight." Later that night, Cole found himself in the living room of his suburban home, lights dimmed to a soft glow. The shadows cast by the table lamps seemed to dance across the walls, reminding him of the tangled illusions in his own marriage. He sat on the couch, phone in hand, scrolling through a list of private labs that performed paternity testing. If he wanted concrete answers, a DNA test was the logical next step. He recalled Layla's words. Don't confront them without a plan. Well, this was the plan, a quiet, methodical approach to expose the truth, even if it hurt beyond measure. His phone rang, startling him. The screen displayed Adriana's name. Heart pounding, he answered, trying to keep his voice steady. "Hey." She sounded almost subdued. "Cole, about today. I'm sorry if Mom got under your skin. She can be pushy." Cole forced a polite chuckle. "She's always pushy. I just want to ensure you're okay. How's the baby?" A slight hesitation. "We're fine. The doctors say we can be discharged soon." An idea flickered. If she's coming home, this might be the perfect chance to get a DNA sample. He kept his tone casual. "Great. You know, I've been thinking it'd be wise to do a full health screening for him. Genetic markers, potential allergies. You remember how my cousin had that unexpected condition?" Adriana exhaled softly. "Right. Your cousin had that rare enzyme issue. I guess it doesn't hurt to be thorough." Cole's heartbeat thumped. "Exactly. I can make the arrangements if you want. All we need is your signature for the paperwork." She paused. "All right. If it helps you feel better, sure." Relief and dread mingled in Cole's chest. He tried not to sound too eager. "Thank you. I'll drop by tomorrow with the forms." They exchanged brief goodnights, an eerie formality that felt miles away from the closeness they once shared. Hanging up, Cole stared at the phone, hands trembling. This was it, his chance to confirm or deny his worst fear. The following afternoon, he returned to the hospital, form in hand. He'd arranged with a discreet lab that offered a standard infant genetic test, which easily included paternity analysis. Smart cover, he thought, and it meant Adriana wouldn't suspect a thing. They met in a small lounge area near the maternity ward. Adriana looked tired but composed. The baby was nestled in a portable car seat, eyes drifting shut. Cole's chest tightened at the sight. He still felt a flicker of paternal instinct, a longing to hold that tiny human and believe it was his flesh and blood. "Here." He handed Adriana the form, along with a pen. "Just your signature at the bottom. I already filled out most of it." She scanned the document, then signed with a quick flourish. No further questions. In that moment, Cole was struck by her calm acceptance. Part of him desperately wanted her to protest, to say, "Why do we need a test? Aren't you sure he's yours?" But she simply scribbled her name. Cole forced a smile, taking the form. "Thanks. I'll drop this off at the lab. They'll let us know when to bring the baby in for a quick swab." "Okay," she replied, voice neutral. She reached down to adjust the baby's blanket, avoiding Cole's gaze. An awkward silence loomed. Finally, she cleared her throat. I appreciate you doing what's best for him." "Of course," he murmured, throat tight. "He deserves the best." They parted ways in the corridor, Adriana returning to her room, Cole heading for the elevator. As soon as he was alone, he exhaled a shaky breath. The weight of what he'd just done sank in. If the test confirms my fear, everything changes. But deep down, he knew a bigger truth. If the baby was truly his, Adriana and Julian's suspicious behavior still needed answers. The test was only the first step. That night, back in the quiet confines of his home office, Cole sent off the paperwork electronically. The lab emailed back. The kit would be couriered to him within 24 hours, and then a nurse could be scheduled to collect samples discreetly. Staring at his computer screen, Cole felt a swirl of anxiety and grim determination. He reached for his phone again, drafting a quick message to Layla. Got Adriana's consent. Test in progress. Her reply came quickly. Good. Wait for results. In the meantime, watch the finances. We'll talk soon. Cole leaned back in his chair, eyes closed. The path ahead was laced with uncertainty, but at least he was no longer stumbling in the dark. If he had to bring Julian's deception and possibly Adriana's to light, he would do it armed with facts. Slowly, he rose and turned off the desk lamp. In the darkness, he stood by the window, gazing at a sliver of moonlight that cut across the suburban street. One phrase looped in his mind like a whisper. He doesn't suspect a thing. A gray drizzle veiled Los Angeles on the morning Cole Harrington received the call. He stood by the tall windows of his penthouse office, watching raindrops snake down the glass. The city below looked shrouded, as though it were keeping secrets, much like the ones tearing at Cole's life. His phone buzzed, startling him from his uneasy thoughts. "Yes?" he answered, pressing a button to switch to speaker mode. A brisk female voice filled the room. "Mr. Harrington? This is Dr. Sandoval from the Delphic lab. We have the results from the infant genetic panel you requested." Cole's heart thudded. He forced a calm tone, though his pulse hammered in his ears. "I'm listening." "We can confirm there is a 0% probability of biological paternity between you and the infant known as Baby Harrington." There it was, plain as day. He'd imagined it 100 times, preparing himself for the worst. Yet the blow still landed like a punch to the gut. "Understood," he managed, voice raw. "Please, email the official report to me and copy my attorney, Layla Fitzroy." "Of course. I'm sorry, Mr. Harrington." As soon as the call ended, Cole staggered back, leaning against a cabinet. 0%, he whispered. The final shred of hope he'd clung to was gone, his mind filled with images of the baby's tiny fist, Adriana's unreadable gaze at the hospital, Julian's smirk. The puzzle fit too well. A swirl of rage, betrayal, and heartbreak crashed over him. For months, he'd planned his life around fatherhood only to discover another man had taken his place. Summoning what remained of his composure, he forced himself upright and dialed Layla's number. She answered on the second ring, voice alert. "Cole? I take it the results are in." He inhaled shakily. "It's confirmed. The baby is not mine." A measured silence on Layla's end. "I'm sorry, Cole. Truly. This changes the stakes. You have tangible evidence now." He swallowed, throat tight. "I won't let them keep using me," he rasped. "We push forward, Layla. Every legal angle we have property, finances, liability. I want to be prepared." Her reply came evenly. "We will be. Start collecting all relevant documents, bank statements, joint ventures, anything that might show how Adriana and Julian manipulated your assets. Once we have a clear paper trail, we'll act." Cole nodded, though she couldn't see him. Send me a checklist. I'll stay up all night if I have to. He hung up, feeling oddly numb. Outside, thunder rumbled, an echo of the storm inside him. He stepped over to his desk, flipping open his laptop. Emails glowed on the screen. Among them, a message from Dr. Sandoval with an attached PDF. He refused to open it right away. The words 0% probability were already seared into his mind. He had to do something. He couldn't just stand there, drowning in shock. Setting his jaw, Cole shoved aside grief and dialed the phone again, calling his executive assistant, Rachel Yates. When she picked up, he spoke quietly. "Rachel, I'll be working from home for the rest of the day. Cancel my afternoon meetings." Rachel hesitated. "Understood. Everything all right, sir?" "Not exactly, but I'll manage. Please forward any urgent files to my email." He hung up before she could pry further. Moments later, he grabbed his briefcase and an umbrella. The city's stormy skyline blurred in the windows as he stepped into the corridor, mind racing with all the steps that lay ahead. Locking away his raw despair, he resolved to transform that pain into a shield. They had used him long enough. Now he had proof. Cole drove carefully through rain-slicked streets, though his mind swirled with dark thoughts. Under the fluorescent buzz of midday traffic, he navigated to a discreet office building in Century City. The sign at the entrance read, "Fitzroy and Associates." Layla Fitzroy greeted him in the sleek lobby, her expression sympathetic yet determined. They proceeded to a quiet conference room, glass walls overlooking an atrium of palm trees glistening with rain. Two other staff members were present, Monica Delaney, a junior associate, and Patrick Luo, a financial analyst. Layla motioned for them to sit. "Cole, let's get started. I've prepared draft documentation to protect your major holdings." Monica slid a folder across the table. "These are trust agreements, basically ring-fencing your core assets, your company shares, personal real estate, and some key investment accounts. Once you sign, those assets become off-limits without your explicit approval." Patrick nodded, tapping on a tablet. "We can also reassign your liquid funds into a new corporate entity, so neither Adriana nor her mother can touch them. If you suspect they'll attempt a legal fight, this ensures you're protected." Cole listened intently. The numbness from the DNA result lingered, but his anger gave him clarity. "Do it," he said flatly. "I want every access point cut off. Whatever stake Adriana has, freeze it until further notice." Layla cleared her throat. She may protest or claim marital rights. But with the paternity test, well, we can argue fraud or misrepresentation on her part, especially if she's been diverting funds to Julian. A spike of bitterness coursed through him. "I have no doubt she's using me. Her mother's probably in on it too. Let them protest. I'm done paying." They spent the next hour going through each document. Cole signed meticulously. Every pen stroke felt like a hammer pounding a nail into the coffin of his marriage. While the storm raged outside, the air inside the conference room grew thick with tension. When they finally finished, Layla stacked the papers neatly. "All right, I'll submit these to the relevant financial institutions by tomorrow morning. By the end of the week, any attempts to withdraw or transfer funds from your accounts will trigger immediate notifications." Cole exhaled, a slight tremor in his chest. "Adriana and Celeste are going to be furious." Layla's gaze was steady. "That's their problem. Just be prepared for emotional backlash." He stood, glancing at the rainfall outside. "They want to push me aside? Treat me like a fool? Fine. Let's see how they function without my bank account to cushion their every whim." A flash of lightning illuminated the atrium, momentarily catching Cole's eye. He pictured Adriana's cold expression, Celeste's contempt, Julian's smug grin. A swirl of conflicting emotions churned in him: betrayal, sorrow, but also resolve. He refused to be a victim any longer. Before leaving, he shook Layla's hand. "Thank you," he said, voice firm. "I appreciate your guidance." She smiled gently. "Take care of yourself, Cole. This is only the beginning." Minutes later, Cole stepped into the downpour, coat collar turned up, determination etched across his features. Rain pelted his shoulders as he reached his car. He thought of Adriana's face when she discovered the funds were untouchable, Celeste's likely outrage. Maybe they'd try to spin it as cruelty or neglect, but he no longer cared. With a sigh that fogged the window, Cole started the engine and pulled out onto the wet streets. This was the first decisive move of many. They had shattered his illusions, but he would show them just how strong the shards could be when weaponized. 2 days later, Cole decided to test Julian Blackwood's arrogance firsthand. Under Layla's advice, he'd arranged a dinner at a trendy restaurant perched atop a downtown skyscraper. Known for its panoramic view and modern cuisine, it was the perfect backdrop for a conversation he intended to record discreetly. He arrived early, wearing a charcoal suit that contrasted the neon skyline emerging at sunset. The city glowed below like a sea of electric stars, but his mind was razor-focused on the man he once called a friend. He chose a table in a secluded corner, away from prying ears, and ordered a single bourbon to steady his nerves. Julian showed up fashionably late, sporting a confident grin and a tailored navy blazer. "Cole," he said, extending his hand. "Glad you're here. Been a while since we caught up without the ladies around." Cole forced a polite smile. "Yes, well, life's been complicated." A hostess approached, depositing sleek menus in front of them. As she walked away, Cole casually pressed the record button on his phone, which was tucked under a linen napkin next to his drink. He took a measured sip of bourbon. "So," Julian began, lacing his fingers, "I know things might be tense, but trust me, we can smooth out any misunderstandings. If you keep investing in my startup, you'll see real returns soon." Cole arched an eyebrow. "Is that so? I recall we've already sunk a significant sum of money, and I haven't seen the results we expected." Julian made a dismissive gesture. "Startup life, you know? Ups and downs. But I'm telling you, the next round of funding will put us on top. Besides," he added, leaning in with a conspiratorial smirk, "Adriana wants you on board, right? We're all friends here." Cole's fingers tightened around his glass. Friends. The word burned on his tongue. He carefully disguised his anger. "Adriana's always been enthusiastic about your ideas, but I need more concrete assurances." "That's understandable." Julian shrugged, eyes flicking to the view behind Cole as if sizing up the city he planned to conquer. "Let's talk about a bigger stake in my company. That means more control for you, but also more capital. If you can funnel it through a personal account, or maybe shift assets from your trust." Cole forced a neutral tone. "I've made some changes in my finances. My accounts might be less accessible than before." Julian's expression faltered slightly. "Really? That's unexpected. Adriana hinted you were still flush with resources." Cole nearly ground his teeth at her name. "Huh. Interesting," he murmured. "Julian, let's cut to the chase. Why do you think my money is so essential to your startup?" Julian hesitated, then offered a careless laugh. "Well, you're the key investor I trust, and besides, once Adriana finalizes certain plans, you won't even notice the outflow. She'll handle that transition for you." Cole's pulse hammered. "She will, huh?" Julian grinned, swirling the wine in his glass. "Yeah, man, don't worry. Adriana and we've got an arrangement, you know? Soon enough, you'll be out of the picture anyway." A cold, slick terror mingled with rage in Cole's belly. He forced a casual chuckle. "You're sure about that?" Julian's eyes gleamed with an arrogance that made Cole's skin crawl. "Completely. Trust me, once she files for a certain request, you'll sign the paperwork, and then everything you own ties neatly into our plan. Adriana's mother, Celeste, is on board too. They're unstoppable." Cole inhaled slowly, memorizing every poisonous word. He wished he could flip the table and confront Julian this instant. But he reminded himself that he needed a solid recording for evidence. "Well," he said, swirling what remained of his bourbon, "I suppose it all depends on timing. Adriana sure knows how to push for what she wants." Julian's smirk broadened. "She does indeed." They placed orders for a light meal, though Cole's appetite had vanished. As they waited, Julian launched into a grandiose pitch for a new AI module that would revolutionize deliveries nationwide. Cole nodded mechanically, letting the conversation meander, all the while his phone capturing Julian's self-assured bragging. By the time dessert menus appeared, Cole had heard enough. He pushed his half-eaten entree aside and signaled the server for the check. Julian's excitement was palpable, but Cole only felt a churning sense of triumph. In that half hour, Julian had dug his own grave, blissfully unaware that every syllable was on record. "Let's do this again soon," Julian said, standing. He clapped Cole's shoulder as though they were old frat buddies. "And don't forget Adriana's counting on you." Cole summoned a tight smile. "Sure," he replied, ignoring the venom in his gut. "I'll be in touch." Late that night, Cole sat alone in his study, the warm glow of a single lamp casting shadows on the walls. He stared at his laptop screen, headphones in, listening to the freshly saved audio file from dinner. Julian's voice crackled through the speakers, taunting him. Every boast, every dismissive reference to Cole's role, every casual mention of Adriana's intentions, it all slammed into Cole's heart like a sledgehammer. He'll be out of the picture. Adriana's mother, Celeste, is on board, too. Cole paused the recording, unable to stomach more for the moment. His reflection in the dark window caught his eye, haunted, tired, furious. The hush of the house pressed in on him. Memories flooded back. The early days of his relationship with Adriana. The excitement when they discovered she was pregnant. His chest tightened with a mix of bitterness and grief. He opened a folder on his computer labeled Financial Evidence. Inside were scans of the lab results, screenshots of questionable bank transfers flagged by the bank, and now an audio file titled Julian Dinner Recording. This was his arsenal, the puzzle pieces proving Adriana and Julian had manipulated him. Yet none of it mended his broken heart. A knock on the door made him jump. Carefully removing his headphones, he called out, "Yes?" His housekeeper, Mrs. Porter, a kindly woman in her late 50s, peered in. "Mr. Harrington, sorry to bother you. I noticed you hadn't eaten. I made some soup if you'd like." Cole managed a grateful nod. "Thank you, Mrs. Porter. I'll have some in a bit." She hovered for a moment, concern etched in her eyes. "Are you okay, sir? You look pale." He inhaled, forcing a brief smile. "I'm just under a lot of stress. I'll be fine. Thank you, though." She hesitated, then left quietly, closing the door behind her. Once alone, Cole let the smile crumble. He rubbed his temples, trying to ease the headache pounding behind his eyes. His phone buzzed on the desk, a text from Layla. "How did dinner go?" He typed back, "Got what we needed. Recording is pretty damning." Her response was immediate. "Good. We'll review and proceed. Focus on your own well-being too, Cole. Well-being." He almost laughed at that. Did he even know what that meant anymore? For so long, he'd centered his life around building a family with Adriana, trusting Julian as a friend. Now all of it was a twisted betrayal. Yet in the midst of his anger and anguish, a calm voice inside reminded him that clarity could be a powerful weapon. He had the DNA test, the audio confession, the financial proof. They might think they'd stripped him of everything, but they had no idea how far he'd go to defend himself. Replaying Julian's words in his mind, Cole's anger sharpened into resolve. If they wanted to push him out of his own life, he'd show them how devastatingly wrong they were. He closed the laptop, storing the files in multiple encrypted locations for safety. Slumping back in the leather chair, he allowed his thoughts to drift. A swirl of half-formed memories flickered. Adriana's laughter on their wedding day, Celeste's scornful looks at every holiday gathering, Julian's cocky grin at the slightest success. He could no longer deny it. These people had seen him as a resource, a stepping stone. They never imagined his resilience. Eventually, the silence grew oppressive. He rose from the chair and paced to the nursery. The door was still slightly ajar, a space he hadn't visited since he learned of the baby's uncertain paternity. Now that he knew the truth, 0%, the neatly arranged crib and pastel walls felt like an abandoned dream. He stepped inside, flicking on the soft lamp by the changing table. Stuffed animals and blankets, once symbols of fatherhood, looked eerie in the warm glow. His fingertips grazed a tiny teddy bear. A wave of sorrow hit him, so strong he nearly dropped it. Would he ever see the child again? Did he even have the right to, if it wasn't his? Trembling, he set the bear down, shutting off the lamp. He left the room, heart heavy. There was no place for illusions anymore. Returning to his study, he retrieved a manila envelope from a locked drawer. Inside were older photos of him and Adriana, plus a note he'd penned years ago about their plans for the future. He stared at the note, reading phrases about traveling with their child, teaching him how to ride a bike, cheering him on at sports games. A single tear blurred the words. Then, clenching his jaw, Cole tore the note in half. He couldn't cling to fantasies that had never truly existed. It was almost midnight when he pressed a final message to Layla. "I'm ready to do whatever it takes." He tucked the phone away, shutting his eyes. Tomorrow, he would begin the final steps, reviewing every shred of evidence, finalizing the plan to expose Adriana and Julian's betrayal, and sealing off any loopholes they might exploit. The pain was still raw, but a grim sense of purpose guided him now. His last thought before turning off the lights echoed softly in the silent room. "I will end this, once and for all." A crisp, cool breeze drifted through the ornate gardens of Celeste Kingsley's estate, where strings of fairy lights twinkled against the twilight sky. Guests in tailored suits and flowing dresses mingled across the lawn, sipping champagne and offering polite smiles. This was supposed to be a joyous gathering, officially a welcome baby party for Adriana's newborn son. Yet Cole Harrington felt anything but joyous. He stepped out of his car, gripping a bouquet of white carnations, a deliberate choice instead of Adriana's usual lilies. His dark blazer felt uncomfortably snug around his shoulders. On the drive over, he'd rehearsed what he was about to do, how he would reveal the ultimate betrayal. Even so, his heart thudded in his chest. A valet stepped forward, offering to park the car. "Enjoy the evening, Mr. Harrington," the young man said, oblivious to the storm brewing behind Cole's calm gaze. Cole squared his shoulders and entered the garden, scanning the scene. The mansion's rear lawn had been transformed into a lavish event space. Balloon arches, soft lounge chairs, tables loaded with fine hors d'oeuvres. The chatter of 100 people created a gentle hum, all pretenses of happiness. He spotted Julian Blackwood standing near a marble fountain, deep in conversation with a group of potential investors. Julian's expression was smug as always, that practiced charm on full display. Off to the side, Adriana wore a pastel pink dress, cradling the baby while speaking to two older women who cooed over the infant. And at the center of it all, Celeste moved like a queen hosting her court, greeting influential guests with sweeping hand gestures. Cole drew a slow breath. He was armed with everything: DNA test results, financial evidence, and the damning audio recording. Tonight, he would lay it all bare. As he maneuvered through the crowd, polite acquaintances congratulated him. "Cole, you must be so proud," someone gushed. He forced a nod, biting down the bitter truth. "Not my child." Every passing well-wisher felt like a needle prick, fueling the tension coiled in his chest. Finally, Celeste noticed him. She approached with an elegant tilt of her chin. "Cole," she said, voice dripping with superficial warmth, "so good of you to arrive. We were starting to think you'd gotten lost." He offered her the bouquet, expression neutral. "I wouldn't miss this for the world." Her eyes flicked to the carnations, perhaps noticing they weren't Adriana's favorite lilies. A flicker of annoyance crossed her face. "Charming," she replied icily, before beckoning a nearby server to take the flowers. "We'll have these displayed somewhere." Cole merely nodded, scanning the crowd once more. Near the baby's bassinet, Adriana glanced up, catching his eye. A flash of apprehension tugged at her features. He walked over, quietly ignoring Celeste, and placed a gentle hand on the bassinet's edge. The infant lay dozing, unaware of the chaos about to unfold. "Cole," Adriana began, voice strained. "Thank you for coming. We should talk later." He forced a thin smile. "Yes, we should. But first, let's address everyone, shall we?" She blinked. "What do you mean?" Cole didn't answer. Instead, he grabbed a nearby champagne flute from a passing server and tapped it with a fork. The bright tink-tink echoed through the crowd. Conversations died down. Heads turned, eyes focusing on him. "Good evening, everyone," Cole began, voice steady. "Celeste, Adriana, Julian, thank you for hosting this lovely celebration." He paused, scanning the sea of curious faces. "I have something important to share." Julian's brow furrowed, his posture stiffening. Adriana paled, hugging the baby close. Celeste shot him a glare as though warning him not to ruin her carefully orchestrated event. Cole drew a slim black device from his pocket. "I'd like to play a recording," he said, pressing a button. Suddenly, Julian's voice crackled through a portable speaker. "Adriana som lihon kao toi, toan bokong tine se la kwachong toi." The clip was brief but damning, capturing Julian's arrogance in reference to our plan. A ripple of shock passed through the guests. Soft gasps erupted. Julian's cheeks flushed, and he darted forward. "Cole, what the hell are you doing?" Cole ignored him, raising his voice. "For those who might wonder, I also have evidence." He brandished a printed document that proves the baby Adriana just had is not mine. A 0% DNA match. A stunned silence fell over the party, broken only by the distant splash of water in the fountain. Adriana's face went white as a sheet. She clutched the baby, tears brimming in her eyes. Across the lawn, Celeste looked ready to faint. The world seemed to hold its breath. Julian tried to regain composure, stepping toward Cole. "You can't just barge in and accuse," Cole cut him off. "Don't pretend. I have bank records, too. You and Adriana diverted funds from our accounts. You used my money to boost your startup. And tonight, everyone here gets to see the truth." He gestured around, letting his words resonate. Celeste quickly recovered her voice, albeit shakily. "How dare you do this at my grandchild's celebration?" Cole's blood boiled. "I did it because that child isn't mine yet. You all tried to make me foot the bill. Enough lies, enough manipulation." The crowd murmured. Phones came out. Some people discreetly recorded the confrontation, capturing every tense second. Adriana swayed, tears now spilling as she looked at Cole. I never meant for it to go this far." Julian grabbed her arm, but she shrugged him off, confusion and panic swirling in her eyes. "This party," Cole declared, "is over." He turned, leaving the stunned gathering behind him. A hush hovered over the lawn until the moment he was out of sight. Then the guests erupted into frantic chatter. Celeste called after him, but he didn't stop. He tossed the useless champagne glass onto a passing waiter's tray and strode toward the exit, chest heaving. The truth was, out in the open, no more secrets, no more illusions. The aftermath of Cole's explosive reveal spread like wildfire. By the next morning, short clips of the confrontation at Celeste's estate had surfaced on social media, grainy phone videos capturing Julian's stammering, Adriana's tearful shock, and Celeste's furious outbursts. Within hours, the online rumor mill churned out headlines. Wealthy investor ambushed at baby party. Cheating scandal rocks high society. Cole woke to dozens of missed calls and texts. The tension from last night still roiled in his gut, but a certain clarity fueled him. He had finally dragged the truth into daylight. Around 9, he met with Layla Fitzroy at a chic downtown cafe, a half-dozen files spread across their table. Rain from the previous days had cleared, leaving a bright California sun that glinted off the windows. Layla browsed an iPad filled with fresh intel. "Julian's startup is already reeling," she noted. "Investors are pulling out, citing the scandal. They're worried about misappropriation of your funds." Cole sipped his coffee, an undercurrent of grim satisfaction in his eyes. He wanted to be a hotshot CEO. Now he'll have to answer for every cent he took. A hush fell as he flipped through a folder detailing the next legal steps. "I assume Adriana and Celeste are in full meltdown?" he ventured. Layla pursed her lips. "I've heard from a contact that Celeste is screaming about defamation, but there's not much she can do if your evidence is solid." Cole nodded. "Let them scream. Last night was just the beginning. Now the world sees them for who they are." He paused, recalling the horror in Adriana's eyes. For a moment, pity tugged at him. He'd loved her once, but the ache of her betrayal cut deeper. She made her choice. Layla tapped her pen. "You should brace for personal attacks. They may claim you're heartless, that you ambushed them, but legally your stance is strong." "Good," Cole said quietly, shoving aside any lingering sympathy. "I'm done being their scapegoat." They finalized a plan. Defamation counters in case Celeste tried anything, press statements clarifying Cole's stance. Then they parted ways, Layla heading off to file urgent paperwork. Later that day, Cole arrived at his logistics company. A hush fell among employees, many of whom had seen the viral clips. His assistant, Rachel Yates, approached timidly. "Mr. Harrington, there's a reporter from Business Tribune asking for a comment." Cole waved her off. "No interviews for now. Redirect them to Layla's office." He couldn't risk fueling more speculation. His priority was fortifying his position and preventing any second-guessing that might unravel the progress he'd made. Meanwhile, the phone on his desk buzzed with an incoming call. The caller ID read Adriana. Heart pounding, Cole hesitated, then answered. Her voice was a shaky whisper. "Cole, Please, can we talk? He shut his eyes, images of her tear-streaked face from the night before flashing in his mind. Adriana, there's nothing left to say. Her breath caught. The baby, he's innocent in all this. Cole's jaw tightened. He thought of that tiny face he once believed was his. I know he's innocent, but you and Julian used me. She let out a quiet sob. It was complicated. We never meant to save it, he cut in, harshness creeping into his tone. You had plenty of chances to come clean, but you kept me in the dark. Now face the consequences. A silence, thick with regret, passed between them. Then she muttered, "Fine," before hanging up. Cole's hand lingered on the receiver. He allowed himself one shuddering breath before burying the pain again. By evening, the domino effect was in full swing. Julian's main investor, Blackstone Ventures, announced a thorough audit of his startup. Social media buzzed with speculation about Adriana's baby's true father. Celeste's so-called elegant social circle was abuzz with gossip about her family's sudden fall from grace. Cole sat in his living room, the TV muted as news tickers scrolled about a prominent businessman's alleged betrayal. He stared blankly, mind churning. The impact was swift, brutal, and exactly what he intended. They destroyed my life. Now I've shattered the facade they carefully built. A phone alert chimed. A text from Patrick Luo, the financial analyst assisting Layla. Cole found more suspicious accounts under Julian's name. Will forward details. He replied with a curt, "Thanks." Another piece in the puzzle to further implicate Julian. Let the public watch that empire crumble. Exhaustion settled over him. He leaned his head back against the couch, eyes sliding shut. The hush in his apartment was thick with a new tension, both relief and sorrow. The baby shower fiasco was over, but the real legal battles lay ahead. At least the truth is out, he told himself. No more living behind illusions. Outside, night cloaked the city in shimmering lights. A single question nagged at Cole's mind. What if Adriana tries to gain sympathy, using the baby as leverage? He shook his head, steeling himself. He had evidence, a strong legal team, and righteous anger on his side. Some might pity the downfall of a family, but Cole reminded himself they showed no pity when they plotted behind his back. This was only the next step in a war he intended to win. 3 days after the baby shower fiasco, Cole found himself in the foyer of his own house, pacing along the polished wooden floors. The air smelled faintly of lavender from a nearby diffuser, a jarring contrast to the bitter tension gnawing at his mind. He'd summoned Adriana here to face him, after repeated calls from her mother, Celeste, and sure enough, a car pulled up outside. The doorbell rang. He took a breath and opened the door. Adriana stood on the porch, looking wan and shaky. Her once pristine appearance was marred by dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back into a messy ponytail. "Cole," she murmured, "thank you for agreeing to meet." She clutched a small handbag. Behind her, a taxi idled, the driver glancing curiously at them through the window. "Come in," Cole said tersely. Inside, they stood in awkward silence, the tension thick as a thundercloud. Finally, Adriana spoke. "I don't know how to start, She exhaled sharply, eyes brimming with tears. "I messed up. Julian and it started as a mistake. We never wanted to hurt you so deeply." Cole's pulse kicked up. "But you did," he whispered, anger spiking beneath his skin. "You both did. You lied. You stole. You let me believe that child was mine. You let me build a nursery, plan a future." Tears spilled onto her cheeks. "You have every right to hate me, but please don't take everything away. My mother is frantic. We have nowhere to go." A bitter laugh escaped him. "Celeste's frantic because she can't mooch off my money anymore. I told you I blocked the accounts, locked down the assets. You should have considered that before forging those transfers." Adriana's voice wavered. "We only did it because Julian's startup was in trouble. I thought we could pay it back once the business took off. It spiraled out of control." Cole shook his head. "I'm filing for divorce." The words came out steady, final. "You can pack your things and leave, or I'll leave, doesn't matter. Either way, this marriage is done." She sagged onto the couch, burying her face in trembling hands. "What about the baby?" she asked, voice muffled. "He's innocent." Cole swallowed a lump in his throat. A pang of sorrow twisted inside him. "That baby is Julian's," he said quietly. "It's not my responsibility. Adriana, I tried to be a father. You took that from me." A choked sob tore from her. She looked up, eyes red. "Where will I go?" He forced himself not to yield to pity. "Go to your mother, or Julian. I don't care. If you need money, talk to your lawyer. Mine is done playing nice." She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. As if reading his resolve, she stood, shoulders hunched. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Cole couldn't meet her gaze. "Just get out. Sign the divorce papers when they come." She retrieved her handbag, footsteps echoing in the silent foyer. At the door, she turned back, tears tracking across her face. "I never wanted it to end like this." "Neither did I," Cole said flatly. He didn't move to hug her or speak another word. She left, her figure retreating into the taxi's gloom. Cole watched from the window as the car pulled away, leaving behind a swirl of dust and regret. His chest felt both hollow and oddly calm, like a wound freshly cauterized, painful but sealed. That evening, he drafted an email to Layla, instructing her to proceed with the divorce petition. He spelled out each term: 0 spousal support, immediate separation of property. If Adriana wanted any concession, she'd have to fight in court. Exhaustion dragged at him, but he pushed forward. He rummaged through old photo albums, stuffing them into boxes. The wedding photos, the honeymoon snapshots, he couldn't bear to see them anymore. Each image reminded him of the naive man he used to be, trusting Adriana with everything. Eventually, he collapsed onto the living room couch, staring at the darkened ceiling. "This is the cost of betrayal," he thought, "for both of us." He recalled Adriana's tearful apology, wondering if it was genuine or just a plea for financial mercy. He banished the thought. She'd made her choice. He was done being her victim. By the next morning, word spread quickly. Friends texted condolences or expressed shock. Some questioned whether he was being too harsh. Others, like his longtime colleague Damian Connolly, voiced unwavering support. "You deserve better, Cole," Damian said in a voicemail. "Don't let them guilt trip you." Cole appreciated the sympathy, yet he also felt a surge of quiet determination. He wasn't the man cowering outside a hospital room anymore. He was forging a new path, uncertain but free from their lies, and so, as he sealed the box containing those once-cherished photographs, he whispered a farewell under his breath. "Goodbye, Adriana." With that, he stepped into the day, feeling a fraction lighter even as the battles ahead loomed closer on the horizon. A week later, Cole Harrington found himself sitting beside Layla Fitzroy in a packed courtroom. The hush of anticipation weighed heavily in the stale air. Rows of seated spectators, journalists, curious onlookers, and a few acquaintances watched the proceedings with keen interest. Across the aisle sat Adriana Harrington and Celeste Kingsley, each avoiding Cole's gaze. Adriana looked weary, hair tied in a simple bun, eyes fixed on the table before her. Celeste's face was pale with anger and humiliation. And off to the side, Julian Blackwood occupied a separate bench with his own counsel. He refused to look at Cole. The judge, a stern woman with short silver hair, rapped her gavel. "We're here today for preliminary hearings in the matter of financial misappropriation and the paternity of the minor child." Layla rose, her voice strong and clear. She presented a concise summary. Cole's assets were used without consent, Julian and Adriana collaborated to divert funds, and the baby was proven not to be Cole's biologically. Meanwhile, a scowling attorney for Julian tried to downplay his client's role. Adriana's counsel mentioned emotional duress, painting her as a woman manipulated by Julian's promises. Julian's lawyer argued that the startup finances were a separate matter, independent of Cole's marriage. "Mr. Blackwood never coerced Mrs. Harrington," he claimed. "She willingly contributed, presumably with Mr. Harrington's knowledge." But the audio recordings and bank transfers told a different story. An hour into the hearing, the judge's eyes narrowed at Julian. "I see evidence of possible fraud," she said, tapping her pen on the docket. "We'll proceed to a formal review of your company's financials. As for paternity, she paused, reviewing the DNA test Cole provided. It's clear Mr. Harrington is not the father. Therefore, any parental or financial responsibilities default to Mr. Blackwood, pending further confirmation. A stir moved through the courtroom. Julian's face turned ashen. Adriana sniffled, tears brimming anew. Celeste muttered under her breath, likely cursing the world for her shattered ambitions. Layla rose again. Your Honor, my client seeks immediate acknowledgement that he is not liable for child support or marital obligations related to this child. She shot Adriana and Celeste a sharp glance. He also requests expedited divorce proceedings on the grounds of infidelity and fraud. The judge nodded. Understood. We'll schedule final hearings soon. For now, Mr. Harrington is legally recognized as not the father. Miss Harrington, any demands for spousal support or monetary settlement will be considered in the broader context of this apparent fraud. Adriana stood, face streaked with tears. Please, Your Honor, think of the baby. He's innocent in all this. He needs security, medical care. Cole felt a stab of guilt, but he forced himself to remain composed. The baby might be innocent, but the betrayal was on Adriana and Julian. He stared straight ahead. Julian's lawyer cleared his throat. Mr. Blackwood is willing to assume paternal responsibilities once an official test is done to confirm. However, we question the reliability of the lab. Layla cut him off. We can arrange a state-supervised test if you insist, but the outcome will be the same. The judge banged the gavel once more, finalizing her statements. So ordered. We'll convene again in 4 weeks for a more thorough examination of evidence. Court is adjourned. A swirl of movement overtook the room as spectators rose from the benches. Cameramen waiting outside likely angled for a dramatic exit. Celeste hurried to Adriana's side, whispering furiously. Julian vanished before Cole could speak to him, probably scurrying out the back door in shame. Cole exhaled shakily. That's it, then, he murmured to Layla. She gave him a measured look. For now, we've won the preliminary round, but there's a lot to unravel before it's final. Stay vigilant. They stepped into the courthouse corridor, flanked by a few reporters who bombarded Cole with questions. Mr. Harrington, any comment on the paternity ruling? Do you feel vindicated? Cole kept his gaze forward, ignoring the cameras. No comment. Layla guided him outside, where a hush of late-afternoon sunlight draped the cityscape. As they reached the sidewalk, Cole spotted Adriana and Celeste waiting near a stone pillar, deep in a heated discussion. Adriana caught sight of him. For a fleeting moment, their eyes locked. She opened her mouth, as if to speak, but Cole turned away, unwilling to engage. Instead, he breathed in the warm air, shoulders sagging with a mixture of relief and sorrow. The judge's words confirmed he was free of paternal claims. Yet the emotional toll weighed heavily. He recalled the times he'd imagined fatherhood, teaching his kid to ride a bike, cheering at soccer games. All illusions turned to dust. Cole? Layla's voice broke through his reverie. You okay? He forced a small nod. As okay as I can be. They have no hold over me now. She squeezed his shoulder gently. They'll keep trying angles, but we're prepared. Focus on your life. This is the beginning of your next chapter. He offered a tight smile. Thank you, Layla, for everything. As she left, Cole lingered on the courthouse steps, city traffic humming around him. Something in his chest felt lighter. No matter what lies they told, no matter how they tried to spin the narrative, the legal system had acknowledged his truth. Turning away from the building, he walked to his car with measured strides. He couldn't erase the memories of Adriana's betrayal, or the image of that innocent baby he once believed was his, but he could move forward. Perhaps he'd never get back the months of broken hopes. But from here on out, he would carve a new path unburdened by their deceit. When he shut the car door, the hush of the interior cocooned him. For a moment, he let out a long, tremulous breath. The war was still ongoing, but this battle was won. He revved the engine, pulling into late-afternoon traffic. The future felt uncertain, but at least it was his to shape. Cole Harrington leaned against the window of his penthouse living room, the late-afternoon sun painting long, golden stripes across the hardwood floor. Through the glass, Los Angeles sprawled beneath him, pulsing with energy. Yet a deep, unsettling quiet clung to his mind. After the courtroom storm and the final showdown with Adriana, the calls and texts had died down. Reporters found new scandals, social media moved on. Even Celeste Kingsley's venomous messages had subsided. Julian Blackwood vanished from the public eye, his failing startup hemorrhaging funds. Layla Fitzroy's latest update confirmed that several of Julian's main investors had filed suits to recover their money. Rumor hinted that Julian might face criminal charges if the forensic accounting revealed fraud. As for Adriana, she and her mother had retreated into a small apartment in a less affluent neighborhood. They were rumored to be struggling with expenses, no more easy cash, as Layla put it. Despite his vindication, Cole couldn't shake the hollowness gripping his chest. He'd won the battles, but the damage left a crater in his heart. The dream of fatherhood he once cherished had dissolved in betrayal. And while he no longer felt the urgent sting of rage every morning, a dull ache lingered like a bruise that refused to fade. A soft knock on the door broke the silence. Mrs. Porter, his longtime housekeeper, peeked in. "Sir, I made some herbal tea. Thought you might need something calming." Cole offered a faint, appreciative smile. "Thank you, Mrs. Porter. You're a lifesaver." She set the tray on a small table near the sofa. "Anything else you need, Mr. Harrington?" He shook his head. "No, I'm fine." After a pause, he added gently, "I appreciate you staying through all this." Her kind eyes reflected understanding. "Been with this household long enough to know you're a good man, sir. Don't let their lies break you." When she left, Cole settled on the couch, sipping the tea's earthy warmth. His gaze drifted across the living room bare walls where family photos once hung, boxes stacked in a corner holding remnants of a life he no longer recognized. He'd cleared out anything that reminded him of Adriana's presence. Occasionally, a pang of guilt stung him. The baby was innocent, after all. Part of him wished that Julian's child could somehow remain free of this mess. But he reminded himself that he wasn't the father, and no one could force him to be. His illusions had cost him too much already. Scrolling through emails, he noticed a note from Damian Connolly, an old friend and colleague. "Hey, Cole. Sorry for everything that's happened. I'm throwing a small get-together next week at the Redwood Lounge. You should come, maybe relax a bit." He typed a short reply. "Thanks, Damian. I'll consider it." Truthfully, the idea of socializing felt foreign, almost exhausting. But maybe it was time to reconnect with normal life, or at least attempt it. He was done hiding in the shadows of heartbreak. Outside, the sky shaded into twilight. Cole stood and walked to a side table where a single-framed photo of him and his parents remained taken years ago at a family reunion. He remembered the pride his father once expressed, the unwavering support his mother gave. He found solace in that memory, a reminder that family could be real and honest, if not always perfect. A beep from his phone signaled another message. This time it was Layla. "Any interest in new expansions for Harrington Logistics? We have an invite from a tech forum next month. Could be good for brand growth." Cole exhaled slowly. He typed back, "Let's do it. It's time to focus on what matters." With that, he placed the phone aside and watched the city lights flicker to life. The emptiness was still there, but a faint sense of relief mingled with it. No more secrets, no more illusions. That emptiness could become a space for something better. Maybe not tonight, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. A week later, Cole Harrington strode into the headquarters of Harrington Logistics, determined to revive the company's momentum. The sleek lobby, with its polished marble floors and modern art, reminded him of everything he'd built before Adriana's betrayal derailed his focus. A few employees paused to greet him politely. He returned their nods with a tighter-lipped smile than he used to wear. He was still regaining his confidence. His administrative assistant, Rachel Yates, hurried over, holding a stack of files. "Morning, Mr. Harrington," she said, adjusting her glasses. "Here's the summary you requested on possible expansions." Also, her voice dropped slightly, "We have a small group waiting in the conference room. I believe you wanted to speak with them about that new project idea?" Cole nodded. "Yes, let's get started." Inside the glass-walled conference room, the hush of anticipation filled the air. Seated around the table were half a dozen employees, some mid-level managers, some fresh talent from the marketing team. and Patrick Luo, the financial analyst who'd assisted Layla with the money trail months earlier. Cole took a seat at the head of the table, scanning their faces. He thought of how, in the midst of personal chaos, these people had remained loyal, keeping the business afloat. "Thank you all for joining me," he began, voice steady. "I've neglected certain aspects of Harrington logistics recently." No one said it, but they all understood why. "But it's time we refocus. I want to expand our footprint, especially in the realm of supporting single parents in our workforce." A stir of surprise crossed their features. Patrick leaned forward, adjusting his tie. "Single parents? Is this a new philanthropic angle?" Cole rested his elbows on the table. "Partly philanthropic, but it's also a strategic initiative. There's a huge market gap in flexible shipping solutions tailored to small businesses run by single parents." He cleared his throat, a flicker of personal emotion creeping in. "And I believe we can do more than just business. We can make a difference." His gaze swept the room. "I want to create a scholarship fund and mentorship program for single fathers like me." He paused. The words felt raw, but he forced them out. "I might not have a child after all, but I understand the challenges. We can open new trade routes, partner with nonprofits, and sponsor local fatherhood programs." Rachel's eyes shone with empathy. "That's brilliant, Mr. Harrington," she said softly. A couple of others murmured agreement. Patrick nodded. "We can reallocate some marketing budget to support this. It'll build goodwill and possibly attract partners who value social impact." Enthusiasm sparked around the table. The conversation shifted to logistics launch timelines, potential partners, cost projections. Cole jotted down notes, feeling a surge of purpose that had eluded him for too long. After the meeting, he lingered, watching the managers file out with a renewed sense of direction. One young employee, Mara, approached shyly. "Thank you," she said, fiddling with her notebook. "I'm a single mom myself. It's heartening to see a boss who actually cares." Cole's throat tightened. He managed a gentle smile. "I'm just trying to do what's right. If you have ideas, my door is open." With that, Mara left, and Cole felt a knot in his chest loosen. He headed back to his office, passing by the wide windows that overlooked the city. "Maybe I can turn my pain into something good," he thought. Later that afternoon, he had a private conversation with Layla Fitzroy in his office. She offered a quick overview of the scholarship's legal framework. "We can name it the Harrington Resilience Fund," she suggested. "We'll need bylaws, an advisory board, but it's doable." Cole agreed, eyes flicking to the city skyline. "I want to announce it at the next corporate event. Let's move fast." Layla studied him, her gaze warm. "You look different. Cole more settled." He exhaled. "I still feel the scars, but focusing on something bigger than myself helps." She nodded, gathering her documents. "I'm proud of you. After all the chaos, you're forging a positive path." As she walked out, he sank into his chair, quietly acknowledging that for the first time in months, he felt the faint glow of a new beginning. Even so, nighttime found him restless at home. The emptiness remained a sense of loss for the fatherhood he'd never truly had. But at least now, each day carried a small flicker of hope. He was doing more than surviving, he was rebuilding. 2 weeks later, Cole attended a bustling tech expo in downtown LA, hoping to glean insights for Harrington Logistics. The venue was a sleek convention center, neon-lit banners heralding breakthroughs in AI, automation, and next-gen software. A swirl of excited voices echoed through the massive space. Cole maneuvered between booths showcasing drones, supply chain analytics, and advanced routing programs. He jotted notes, occasionally exchanging business cards with potential collaborators. This was his first major public appearance since the scandal. While some recognized him murmuring rumors about his personal drama, he kept a polite, professional facade. Midway through the afternoon, a sign advertising an AI panel discussion caught his eye. "Transforming Logistics Through Predictive Intelligence." Perfect. He slipped into a nearby elevator heading for the conference hall on the 10th floor. But as the elevator doors slid shut, a voice called, "Hold, please!" He quickly pressed the door open button. A tall, poised woman stepped in, her hair swept into a sophisticated bun, wearing a tailored navy blazer. "Thanks," she said with a grateful smile. "I was sure I'd miss it." Cole nodded politely. Something about her composure struck him as graceful, even under the fluorescent glow of the elevator. She reached for the panel and pressed 10, mirroring his floor. After a moment, she turned. "Here for the AI conference?" "Yeah, trying to see how it applies to my logistics firm," he said. "Cole Harrington," he added, offering a handshake. She accepted with a firm grip. "Aurora Whitewood. I'm a consultant in AI development for supply chain systems." A flicker of curiosity sparked in his mind. Aurora Whitewood, an unusual name. "You're presenting?" She shook her head. "Not this time. Just attending. I used to run a small startup in Boston, but after a rough divorce, I relocated here. Thought I'd see if LA's tech scene offered fresh opportunities." Cole's chest tightened at the mention of divorce. He understood that kind of upheaval all too well. "I, also had a rough personal patch. Let's just say I'm rebuilding too." Aurora gave a rueful smile. "Sometimes life has a way of pushing us in new directions, right?" He nodded, the elevator humming around them. "Exactly." Suddenly, a lurch. The elevator jerked to a stop, lights flickering momentarily. Aurora grabbed the railing, eyes wide. "What was that?" Cole pressed the emergency button. A static voice crackled. "We're experiencing a brief outage. Please remain calm. Maintenance is on the way." A pause. Then they both chuckled, equal parts relief and awkward amusement. "Well," Cole said, "I guess we're stuck together for a bit." She exhaled. "Lucky us." Time stretched in the enclosed space. They traded stories in hushed voices. Aurora explained how her ex-husband had undermined her business. Cole vaguely mentioned the heartbreak of discovering the child he'd expected wasn't his. While he spared the raw details, the empathy in Aurora's eyes was tangible. "That's heartbreaking," she murmured. "I'm sorry you went through that." Cole appreciated her sincerity. "It's been a journey, but I'm finding my footing again. My company's launching a scholarship for single fathers, a sort of personal mission, I guess." Aurora's lips curved into a gentle smile. "That's incredible. AI can do wonders for logistics, but hearing about real-life impact like that, it's inspiring." Her words warmed him more than he cared to admit. Then, with a faint shudder, the elevator powered back on. The doors slid open to reveal a slightly embarrassed maintenance worker who apologized for the inconvenience. Stepping out onto the 10th floor, Cole turned to Aurora. "I was heading to the predictive logistics panel. Care to join me?" She nodded. "I'd love that." They found seats in the packed hall, the overhead lights dimmed, a row of experts speaking from a stage. Data visualizations danced across a screen. Cole felt a renewed excitement for the future, both in business and in this quiet sense of connection with someone who seemed to understand broken dreams. As the panel concluded, Aurora tapped his shoulder. "I have a few ideas about streamlining real-time forecasting for your sector. If you ever want to talk shop or just talk, here's my card." He accepted the sleek card, noticing the elegant logo. Aurora Whitewood, AI consultant. Her email was simple, direct. "I'll definitely reach out." A flicker of cautious hope ignited in Cole's chest. They parted ways in the bustling lobby, exchanging a final, promising smile. For the first time since his marriage had crumbled, he felt his heart lighten, if only a fraction. Perhaps there was room for new connections after all. A couple of weeks later, Cole found himself at a small riverside cafe, the gentle murmur of water providing a soothing backdrop. The sun glinted off the slow current, while a row of willow trees offered shade against the midday heat. He'd chosen this spot serene yet welcoming for a casual meetup with Aurora Whitewood. He saw her arrive, wearing a simple blouse and jeans, far different from the polished blazer at the expo. Still, she carried that same quiet grace. "Hey, Cole," she greeted, setting her bag on a chair. "Quite a view." He nodded, gesturing for her to sit. "One of my favorites. Low-key, not too crowded." A friendly waiter approached with menus and they ordered iced tea. The conversation began with talk of AI modules, predictive algorithms, supply chain demands, each topic revealing Aurora's technical acumen. But as they relaxed into the conversation, it drifted to personal stories, emotional lessons learned. Aurora spoke of her entrepreneurial dreams that had crashed when her ex-husband drained her company's funds. She relocated to LA for a fresh start, consulting while considering a new business angle. "I lost a lot of money and trust," she admitted, stirring her drink. "But I guess it taught me resilience. I had to pick myself up and keep moving." Cole sipped his iced tea, nodding. "I get it. I believed I had a stable marriage only to discover I was financing an affair. Now I'm figuring out how to turn that betrayal into something meaningful. That scholarship program my way of healing, I guess." Her gaze softened. "That's powerful. You're channeling the pain into a cause that can help others." He shrugged, a faint smile touching his lips. "I hope so. The official launch is in a month or two. We'll host a small fundraiser, see how the response goes." He paused. "Would you like to attend? Maybe share some of your insights about AI's potential for nonprofit logistics or something like that?" Aurora tilted her head thoughtfully. "I'd be honored. And I'd love to see how else I can contribute, maybe do a pro bono AI optimization design for your event's shipping needs, if that's helpful." Cole's spirits lifted. "That sounds fantastic." The sound of water lapping against the riverbank filled a brief silence. Then Aurora hesitated. "I appreciate that you trust me enough to talk about this scholarship and personal stuff. After what you've been through, trust can't be easy." He looked away for a moment, watching a heron glide over the water. "You're right. Trust is complicated now, but you've been upfront with me from the start. That means a lot." She exhaled, shoulders relaxing. "Well, I want to keep it that way. No secrets, no hidden agendas." Their eyes met, and in that shared moment of honesty, something unspoken passed between them, a gentle current of empathy that had been missing from Cole's life for too long. He realized how starved he'd been for genuine connection, free from manipulation. They talked until the sun dipped lower, the air cooling. At one point, Aurora mentioned meeting single dads in her volunteer efforts back in Boston. "I'd love to weave more community outreach into the scholarship, not just handing out money, but creating support networks, group sessions, skill-building workshops, even therapy sessions if needed." Cole's chest warmed. "That's exactly what I envisioned, a real support system. We can't just throw money at single fathers and expect them to flourish. They need camaraderie, mentorship, resources." She nodded enthusiastically. "We'll do it. And if I can connect some of my AI or corporate partners for sponsorships, that might magnify the impact." They finished their iced teas, both energized by the brainstorming. Stepping outside the cafe, the sky glowed with a soft, peachy hue. They walked along the riverbank, conversation drifting to lighter topics, favorite travel spots, comedic mishaps from past projects, music tastes. When they paused at a small footbridge, Cole glanced at Aurora, noticing how her eyes sparkled with a renewed sense of purpose. For a fleeting second, he imagined leaning in, bridging the small gap between them. But a swirl of nerves and the memory of past betrayals held him back. Still, the warmth in her smile melted some of his residual apprehension. "Thank you," she said quietly, resting her hand on the railing. "For letting me into this part of your life. I know it's not easy." He inhaled the mild evening air. "I should be the one thanking you, for reminding me that trust isn't impossible." They lingered, both reluctant to part ways. Eventually, Aurora glanced at her watch. "I have to prep for another meeting, but let's do this again soon, okay?" Cole felt a subtle flutter in his chest. Absolutely. They exchanged a parting embrace, brief, warm, carefully within the boundaries of new friendship. No romantic sparks forcibly rushed, just a gentle closeness that hinted at potential. As she walked off, Cole watched her figure fade into the dimming light, a sense of calm settling over him. This was a different kind of beginning from what he once had, honest, open, with no illusions. He recalled how she'd said no secrets, no hidden agendas, and felt an unfamiliar, hopeful flutter deep inside. He was finding his footing, building trust step by step. That evening, returning home, he realized that despite the lingering scars, he now had a reason to look forward rather than backward. not just for the scholarship or the company, but for the possibility that genuine human connection could exist in his life again. A brisk November wind tugged at Cole Harrington's jacket as he parked his sedan outside a rundown apartment complex on the east side of Los Angeles. The neighborhood was a stark contrast to the upscale circles Adriana once inhabited with Celeste. Faded paint peeled from the building's facade, and a flickering streetlight cast long shadows across the cracked sidewalk. He stepped up to Unit 2B, remembering Adriana's vague text. "Please, I need to see you." He wasn't sure what he'd find another plea for money? A final argument? Even so, part of him felt compelled to tie up loose ends. He knocked gently. After a few seconds, the door creaked open. Adriana stood there, her hair pulled into a messy bun, face thin from stress. She wore a worn sweater and jeans that looked 2 sizes too loose. The faint cry of a baby drifted from inside. "Cole," she said quietly, stepping aside to let him in. Her apartment was a single cramped room with a kitchenette and a small couch. The baby Julian's child lay fussing in a portable crib set against a peeling wall. Cole's heart twinged with memories, but the anger that once flared had settled into something calmer, almost numb. "You said you needed to see me." She nodded, guiding him to sit at a battered table. I'm sorry for dragging you here." Her voice trembled. "I'm struggling, Cole. My mother, she's out trying to borrow money from old contacts, but no one wants anything to do with us anymore." Cole noticed the dark circles under her eyes and a few unopened bills scattered on the table. He let out a soft exhale. "What do you want from me?" Adriana wrung her hands, glancing at the baby. "I'm not asking for your support. I know the court recognized Julian as the father. But I just wanted to tell you I never intended to break you. It was selfish, and I'm paying for it." A sliver of pity touched him. He recalled once believing they'd be a happy family. Now the distance between them felt like miles, despite the cramped space. "Adriana, I'm not here to argue. We've both moved on. The divorce will finalize soon." Tears welled in her eyes. "I know. I needed to say I'm sorry. Truly. And maybe ask if you hate me." Cole paused. The baby's soft whimpers sounded behind them, tugging at his chest. "I don't hate you," he said quietly. "But I can't forgive what you and Julian did. I hope you can find a path forward, especially for the baby's sake." She bowed her head. "He's innocent," she whispered. "Sometimes I wish I'd been honest sooner." Cole studied her face, once vibrant with confidence, now shadowed by regret. "That might have changed everything," he said, voice tinged with resignation. "But we can't rewrite the past." The baby's crying escalated, and Adriana stood to comfort him, a strained hush escaping her lips. Cole watched for a moment, remembering how he used to imagine fatherhood. The ache lingered, but time had replaced rage with acceptance. "So what happens now?" she asked, patting the baby's back. Cole rose, slipping his hands into his coat pockets. "You handle your life, Adriana. I handle mine. The courts will decide any financial obligations for you and Julian. I'm done with this chapter." She swallowed hard, tears glistening in her eyes. "Right. I understand." He walked toward the door, pausing briefly. "I hope you do what's best for him," Cole said, jerking his chin toward the infant. "He deserves a chance." A soft sob caught in her throat as she nodded. Without another word, Cole stepped outside into the crisp evening air. The swirl of pity, relief, and sadness followed him down the cracked stairs. Once I might have lost it all for her. Now I wish her only enough peace to move on. He slid behind the wheel of his car, heart pounding with the weight of finality. No more illusions, no more guilt. He'd faced the woman who betrayed him, found closure, and let the final thread slip from his grasp. 3 weeks later, Cole Harrington stood in a polished marble corridor at the L.A. County Family Court, waiting for the final divorce hearing. The overhead fluorescent lights buzzed faintly. He adjusted his watch, exhaling a measured breath. This was the day he officially ended the marriage that had nearly destroyed him. Layla Fitzroy approached, her briefcase in hand. "Cole," she greeted with a reassuring nod. "Today shouldn't be too complicated. The judge has all the evidence." Julian's already recognized as the baby's legal father, and Celeste's financial misconduct was documented. He nodded, loosening his tie. Right. Let's just get this over with. They entered the courtroom, a smaller one than before, more subdued in its decor. Adriana sat at the front, flanked by her lawyer. Celeste was conspicuously absent, perhaps unable to face the final blow to her ambitions. Or maybe she'd been forced to handle her own legal troubles stemming from the unauthorized expenses. Cole didn't particularly care. The judge, a middle-aged man with glasses perched on his nose, called the case to order. Formalities followed: a summary of the marriage dissolution, a recap of fraud allegations and paternity disclaimers. Layla submitted a concise final statement, clarifying that Cole sought no spousal support nor any association with the child. All property claims were settled, with Celeste owing restitution for the funds she spent from Cole's accounts. Adriana's lawyer briefly argued for a minimal settlement to support her post-divorce living arrangement, but the judge's gaze flickered to the record of deception. Miss Harrington, he said, voice measured, given the established fraud and misappropriation of Mr. Harrington's finances, it's within this court's right to deny your request. A hush settled. Adriana stared at her folded hands. Cole felt a pang of pity again, but reminded himself this was the consequence of her choices. Finally, the judge rapped his gavel once. Divorce granted. Mr. Cole Harrington is free of all marital obligations henceforth. Miss Adriana Harrington, your name is restored to your maiden name if you so choose, and child support remains with Mr. Julian Blackwood. This court is adjourned. A swirl of relief and lingering sadness washed over Cole. He stepped back from the bench, noticing Adriana's shoulders slump in resignation. She rose slowly, her lawyer gathering papers. There was a moment, just a heartbeat, where their eyes met. A silent farewell passed between them, heavy with lost dreams and regrets. Layla touched Cole's arm, drawing him away from the front. That's it. You're officially divorced. He inhaled deeply, almost dizzy with the realization. It's over, he whispered. Outside the courthouse, the morning sun pierced through scattered clouds. The crisp air carried a sense of renewal. Layla gave him a light smile. Take a day, Cole. Breathe. Then get back to living your life. He nodded. Yeah. Thank you, Layla, for everything. A swirl of reporters and curious onlookers had long faded from his story, leaving him free to exit unbothered. He strolled down the courthouse steps, each footfall feeling lighter. The bitterness that once clenched his chest had melted into calm acceptance. No illusions remained. He was a single man forging a new path. Driving away, he let the radio play a soft indie tune. The city streets seemed more vibrant, as if reflecting his own sense of final closure. The ring that once symbolized love sat in a drawer at home, no longer a reminder of betrayal, but of how far he'd come. In the weeks following the finalized divorce, Cole threw himself into Harrington logistics with renewed energy. He orchestrated deals that expanded his company's international roots. He even launched the Harrington Resilience Fund, dedicated to supporting single fathers facing adversity, some victims of betrayal like him, others just struggling with life's heavy load. A bright winter morning found him standing on a stage at a modest convention hall, addressing a small crowd of journalists, business partners, and potential donors. Banners reading Harrington Resilience Fund adorned the backdrop. The air buzzed with hopeful anticipation. He gripped the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending. Our mission is more than just providing funds. It's about guiding single fathers through mentorship programs, educational workshops, and emotional support. We believe resilience can be nurtured with the right tools. Polite applause rippled through the audience. Among them, he spotted Aurora Whitewood, looking poised in a slate-gray dress. Their gazes locked for a brief moment, a secret warmth sparking in Cole's chest. Since their cafe meeting, they'd grown steadily closer, though both moved cautiously, scarred by past relationships. Stepping off the stage, Cole fielded a few questions from local news outlets, then made his way to Aurora's side. Hey, he said, a smile creeping onto his face. Glad you came. She returned the smile, offering a short handshake that turned into a gentle squeeze of his fingers. I'm impressed, Cole. This is exactly the kind of initiative the community needs. They walked together through the hall, pausing at booths showcasing father-friendly businesses, non-profits offering counseling services, and demonstrations of AI logistics, a collaboration Aurora had helped set up to showcase how advanced tech could streamline donation deliveries. At one booth, a father shared how the program's mentoring had helped him keep his job while caring for his toddler. Cole listened intently, feeling a surge of gratitude that his personal tragedy had evolved into a platform for positive change. After the event, Aurora and Cole left for a quick lunch at a nearby bistro. The clamor of midday traffic faded into the background as they found a quiet corner table. "I talked to a few corporate sponsors," Aurora mentioned, picking at her salad. "They're intrigued by your approach, real, Hansen support, not just writing checks. My AI firm contact wants to pilot a predictive donation app for you guys." Cole grinned. "That would be a game changer, Aurora. Thank you." She waved a hand dismissively. "I'm happy to help. This entire fund—" Her gaze shifted, almost shy. "I see how passionate you are about it. It's admirable." A comfortable pause stretched between them. He recalled the swirl of heartbreak that once dominated his life. Now, a gentle excitement replaced those bruises. "I'm grateful for your insight. Honestly, I couldn't have done half of this without your support." Aurora blushed lightly, tucking a stray hair behind her ear. "It's mutual. You've reminded me that I can trust again, invest myself in a worthy cause without fear." Cole felt the knot of uncertainty inside him loosen further. Their eyes locked, a soft hum of unspoken affection passing between them. They'd gone on several low-key dates, coffee meetups, quiet dinners exploring not just business synergy, but the slow blossoming of genuine feelings. He reached across the table, briefly covering her hand with his. "I'd like to keep building this partnership. Professionally, personally, if you're open to that." A gentle smile curved her lips. "I am," she said simply. No fireworks, no over-the-top declarations, just a calm confidence that they were heading in a healthy direction. After their meal, Cole walked her back to her car. The winter sun glowed overhead, warming the cool air. Before she opened the door, she turned, hesitating. "Let's finalize details soon for that fatherhood workshop," she said, her voice soft. "And maybe we can talk about that new business project idea you mentioned?" "Definitely." Cole stepped closer, leaning in to press a quick, warm kiss to her cheek. The gesture sent a pleasant spark between them. He still navigated intimacy with caution, aware of old wounds, but Aurora's quiet acceptance eased his nerves. She offered a slightly shy grin, then slipped into her car. As she drove off, Cole stood on the curb, exhaling contentment. Life had changed drastically from heartbreak to renewal. His divorce might have severed old ties, but it cleared space for new growth. Work thrived. The scholarship fund blossomed, and Aurora's gentle presence filled him with a sense of promise he hadn't known in a long time. Months rolled by, carrying Cole Harrington into a late spring evening that shimmered with possibility. Harrington Logistics soared to new heights: international expansion, AI-driven route optimization, and widespread acclaim for the Resilience Fund. Aurora played a pivotal role, advising on the tech side while supporting the fatherhood initiatives from behind the scenes. On this particular night, Cole stood on the balcony of the Harrington Logistics headquarters, gazing at the sprawling cityscape below. Strings of decorative lights framed the open-air lounge, where a small celebratory gathering had just concluded. Employees had toasted the fund's first successful year, awarding dozens of scholarships to single dads across California. The music and chatter from inside the lounge had died down, leaving Cole alone with his thoughts. He breathed in the mild night air. Memories drifted across his mind the day he discovered Adriana's betrayal at the hospital, the legal battles, the heartbreak. He recalled the nursery he'd decorated for a child that turned out not to be his. The pain still flickered, but it no longer controlled him. Behind him, footsteps clicked softly on the concrete. He turned to see Aurora approaching in a sleek but simple dress, her hair falling in gentle waves. A gentle smile lit her face. "Hiding out here?" Cole chuckled, taking in the city, reflecting on how far we've come. She joined him at the railing, the glow from the city lights dancing in her eyes. It's been quite a ride, hasn't it? Her tone held admiration. You overcame so much and still found it in you to create something meaningful. He shrugged, a gentle warmth flooding his chest. I had help. Their gazes locked, and a tender current thrummed between them. The breeze carried a faint perfume of night-blooming flowers from the decorative planters. Aurora lifted a hand, brushing a stray hair from Cole's forehead. You gave me faith in second chances. Her voice wavered slightly. We both know heartbreak too well, but maybe we can write a better chapter together. His heart thudded. For a moment, the din of the city faded, replaced by the quiet vulnerability in her eyes. He reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers. I'd like that, more than anything. They stood side by side, the city's neon tapestry stretching out beneath them. For Cole, it felt like staring at the future unknown, but bright with promise. Clearing his throat, he gently squeezed her hand. Aurora, there's something I want to show you. He fished in his pocket for a small envelope. Inside was a newly drafted proposal for a joint venture combining AI consultancy and logistics solutions. I know we've been discussing your own startup dreams. I'd like to invest in you. In us professionally and maybe personally. Her breath caught. She glanced at the document, reading the bold header referencing an equal partnership. Slowly, her gaze lifted, brimming with gratitude. Cole, this is unexpected. Are you sure? He nodded. I'm sure. You've taught me that trust can be rebuilt, and I want to build something real, beyond just the fatherhood fund. Tears threatened to form in her eyes, but she blinked them away, smiling. I'll need time to read the fine print, she teased lightly. But yes, I'm all in. A quiet laugh escaped him as he slipped the envelope back into his pocket. They leaned closer, the tension crackling with tenderness. This time there was no hesitation. Cole lowered his mouth to hers in a soft, unhurried kiss, an affirmation of all they'd come through. The city lights shimmered, reflecting the shared hope in their union. When they finally drew apart, Cole wrapped an arm around her waist, guiding her to the balcony's edge. Below them, Louisiana's skyline pulsed like a living tapestry of color and movement. Above, the stars blinked faintly through the glow. He thought of the old ring he'd once worn, the hospital corridor where his world shattered, the final divorce hearing, all stepping stones leading him here. Aurora, he murmured. I used to think betrayal had broken me for good. But tonight, I'm happier than I've ever been on my own terms. She stroked his cheek, eyes shining. Sometimes heartbreak is the catalyst for growth. Look at all the good you've done. Look at who you've become. A breeze stirred, carrying the scent of nighttime jasmine. Cole inhaled deeply, feeling strong and at peace. I'm still me, he said. Just a better version, I hope. They stood there for a while, the hum of the city enveloping them. Then Aurora slid her hand into his, gently tugging him toward the conference room's interior. It's late. Let's go. I have a feeling tomorrow has even more in store for us. He let her lead him inside, the warmth of her presence anchoring him. As they walked, Cole cast one last glance over his shoulder at the sprawling city lights. Once, that same city had watched him crumble at the revelation of Adriana's lies. Now, it bore witness to a man rebuilt by truth, guided by compassion, and open to new love.